again, the release of that mugshot of the former president, now a historic moment, and one that Trump already seems to be trying to cash in on. So what's next for the former president, and how will the fresh round of notoriety play into his political strategy? Well, I want to bring in CNN political commentator Essie Cupp. She joins us from the U.S. state of Connecticut. Good to see you. So,
thanks for having me.
I want to start with that mugshot, that facial expression, because this is the first time we've seen a mugshot of an American president, this of the 45th president of the United States. It almost looks cartoonish. What message did he want to send with that look?
Well, Trump has used all of his scandals, including impeachments and indictments, to reaffirm this idea that he planted in his voters' minds many years ago, that anything that happened to him would be everyone else's fault. Maybe it's the deep state, maybe it's corrupt DOJ, sometimes it's the fault of law enforcement, the generals, the intelligence community, the media, the Democrats. I mean, you could go down the list. It's everybody else, it's not me. And so he uses these images, these scandals. He disseminated images of the raid on Mar-a-Lago to sort of reinforce that idea that he is somehow a victim in all of this. And he's standing proudly for this mugshot that he is insisting is the corruption of justice. He's not corrupt. It's justice that's corrupt.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, after that mugshot was taken, he returned to the social media platform, formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, with that mugshot, and he's proud of it. His campaign is selling all sorts of mugshot merch, Never Surrender, shirts, bumper stickers, mugs. And as you were pointing to, he is trying to cash in on this. Talk to us about how we've seen these boosts in fundraising after every single indictment.
Yeah, he's not embarrassed by any of this. Let's be clear. You don't go and sell merchandise of your indictments and impeachments for storming the Capitol and convincing your followers to attack police officers with weapons to overturn a democratic election. If you're ashamed of any of that, he's not. So he cashes in. He's been cashing in on his own voters since he was elected, convincing them to turn over small dollar amounts, large dollar amounts, mostly to pay legal bills. There was that sort of fraudulent effort to collect money to, quote, stop the steal. Most of that did not go to any of those efforts. It went to Trump and Melania's assistants, that sort of thing. So his supporters keep handing over their dollars for merch, and various, causes that he's convinced them to believe in. But really, it goes to line his own pockets.
And interesting to note, as quickly as we saw that merchandise pop up, we also saw some from those against Trump also putting out merchandise, using that mugshot, some playing on the fact that the 2024 election is next year, saying he should get 20 to 24 years in prison. Other shirts alluded to the Hollywood tape episode with the slogan, "Grab him by the penal code." On the world stage, though, I mean, this just seems farcical. This is the man that is likely to be the frontrunner for the Republican Party in the next U.S. election. How are we meant to read this?
Believe me, on behalf of, I guess, some of my country, I am embarrassed by this grotesque and almost cartoonish display and downfall. It's so unprecedented. There's layers of how unprecedented it is. It's not just a president with a mugshot. It's a president facing 90 plus counts. It's a president who's convinced a Republican Party that used to stand for law and order that the law and order is corrupt. He is the one who's innocent, and then, convincing his supporters to probably still nominate him even if he's convicted. I mean, it's incredible. It's a feat, actually, that he's engendered such a cult like following, and completely corrupted and sort of perverted what the conservative party used to conservative movement used to stand for, the Republican Party used to stand for, and what American politics looks like today.
And Essie, when you watched the Republican debate this week, it was obviously very notable to everyone. that most of the candidates running for the Republican nomination don't want to criticize Trump. Most vowed that they would pardon him if he's convicted, even his former Vice President Mike Pence, who was credited with standing up to him, with standing up for the Constitution. So in your mind, which of those candidates pose the biggest threat to Trump? Which could become the next presidential candidate for the Republican Party?
None of them. If they keep avoiding the elephant in the room, which is that this person will probably be in prison at some time in the next year or two, you don't even have to say, look at how bad Trump is. All you have to say is, I like Trump, you like Trump, but he's probably going to be in prison. We should elect someone who isn't going to be in prison. But they won't say it because he has so emasculated the Republican Party. They're completely afraid of him and his voters. So until they decide to actually take him on and start pointing out the obvious, none of them pose a threat to him, and he knows that.
S.A. Cupp, as always, good to get your analysis and your perspective. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, for more on this, Nick Valencia is outside the Fulton County Jail. Good to have you with us, Nick. So the deadline to surrender in this case here in Georgia has passed. All 19 have now surrendered. What comes next?
That's right. They've all done their legal duty. They've all 19 of them surrendered here, with the last two cutting it down really to the wire at the 11th hour surrendering. It was Travion Coochie, the Kanye West link publicist who also did work briefly for R. Kelly. She's from the Chicago area. She surrendered. She's charged in this RICO indictment with also coming down here to try to allegedly intimidate Fulton County election worker Ruby Freeman. And according to District Attorney Fani Willis, she's alleged to have told Freeman that she was a loose end that needed to be tidied up. Now, shortly after she turned herself in, about an hour left before that deadline, Pastor Stephen Lee, who's from Illinois, also accused in this RICO indictment of doing the same thing, coming down here and trying to intimidate Ruby Freeman. In fact, Freeman called 911 on the pastor, and there's video of their interaction with him. He was released, and shortly after his surrender, we spoke to his attorney, who claimed that his client was simply coming down here to knock on doors and has no personal connection to the former president, Donald Trump. As far as what's next, Linda, we're looking ahead now that all 19 defendants have surrendered, looking ahead till Monday, where the former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, the former chief of staff, the former president, he's got a federal court hearing where he's trying to get his criminal proceedings moved from a state court to federal court in hopes of getting that dismissed. He and his lawyers are arguing that there is a federal statute which says that anyone who's a federal official operating in that capacity, who's alleged to have committed a crime while working as a federal official, deserves to have and has the privilege of having their criminal proceedings heard in a federal court. So he's hoping to try to push that there. We also earlier today saw some of the defense from another one of those defendants, fake elector Kathy Latham, who in a legal filing claimed that she was taking directions from the very top. You know, we've reported a lot about this, and it's worth reminding our viewers how we got here. This is more than just an infamous phone call where Donald Trump asked the Secretary of State here in Georgia to find 11,000 more votes. This is about an orchestrated pressure campaign to pressure Georgia lawmakers to overturn the election results, to pressure Fulton County election workers, and it's also about a scheme to illegally access voting data in a rural county that was friendly to the former president. So this was a sprawling investigation that is going to take time to play out. Fani Willis has suggested October as a trial date. We should expect a slew of legal filings between now and then. Linda?
And Nick, obviously, in terms of the trial date, we heard yesterday that the trial date was set for 2 months from now. It doesn't seem like a lot of time to prepare for this trial. Is it likely that that timeline will happen?
You know, some legal analysts are saying that this was Fani Willis calling the bluff of Kenneth Chesborough, a former Trump attorney, who said that he wanted a swift trial. And then the next thing we knew, we saw this filing, this legal filing, suggesting October as the trial date. There may be several trial dates. Initially, Fani Willis had said that she wanted to try all of these 19 defendants together. We should expect the former president to try to get his case moved as well to federal court. It's unclear right now exactly if this will happen in October. President Trump has 4 indictments that he's facing in the last 5 months, and because of that, there is a handful of trial dates that have been set. We'll see if those stick. Linda?
And is there any indication, Nick, which case out of all these cases, there's 4 indictments, which one would take precedents when it comes to the timing of each of these trials in the midst of an election year?
Well, there's a belief that potentially the federal case could take precedent, but that is not clear. And there is a lot of overlap between the federal case, the January 6th case, and this one here in Georgia. They're really inextricably linked. The overall effort by Trump and his operatives to overturn the 2020 election results really zeroed in on Georgia. But the fake elector scheme, which is part of this investigation, was a nationwide effort. So, right now it's unclear. The bottom line is that the former president is in legal peril, and he must have his head swirling right now with all these legal filings. Linda?
Yeah, exactly. And the charges are certainly piling up. Nick Valencia, good to have you with us from outside the jail here in Atlanta.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.